It was July 23rd, the first day of the 2001 National Boy Scout Jamboree. After stopping for a few necessities, we arrived at Subcamp 14 and began unpacking our bus. We knew what to do. First we set up the dining flies, then the picnic tables, followed by the tents. It did not take long for our site to look like a real campsite. Now the work on the gateway began. Once the towers were built, we moved the panels into place. Then we added the council strips and flags. The gateway for Troops 1417 and 1418 was completed. We noticed some of our leaders were a little confused, so we had a meeting to go over a few things. Meals at the Jamboree were easy to prepare and very tasty. Everyone ate their fill, and there seldom was any food left over. Washing clothes was quite an experience. No electricity was used. Just grab your bucket, soap, and a plunger and go to work. We were not the only troop that put a lot of effort into our gateway. Many were very impressive. Most gateways reflected a local theme. There were many things to do at the Jamboree. The pioneering area demonstrated many ways to use lashings and knots. They even had a merry-go-round swing set up to try out. The handicap awareness area was a very popular place with scouts and leaders. Scouts ran blind, played basketball in wheelchairs, and wrote their names upside down and backwards while looking in a mirror to demonstrate what it was like to have a learning disability. Scuba diving was a very popular place as the temperature rose during the day. Fishing was great at a lake stocked with over 10,000 fish solely for the Jamboree. Any scout who wished to try out shortwave radio was invited to the KZ BSA tent. Members of the Order of the Arrow performed in the well-attended Scoutopia show. Between activities, troop members planned their day, showed off patches, played cards, and relaxed. A replica of Brownsea Island, the site of the first Boy Scout camp, was open for everyone to visit. Visitors played games that Scouts played 90 years ago, and even got to meet Scouting's founder, Lord Baden-Powell, kind of. Across the road, Scouts discovered what America's first Scout camp was like. It was time to march to the first of the two camp-wide shows. Every Scout and leader was dressed in full uniform. Troops lined up at their subcamps and joined the procession as it went by, creating a parade of 30,000 Scouts and leaders. It took over an hour for every Jamboree member to enter the naturally formed amphitheater. The U.S. military kept the audience entertained with various bands and a paratrooper demonstration. Then it was time for the show to begin. Two large screens enlarged what was happening on the stage. Huge speakers were set up in several locations so that everyone could hear. The production featured three main acts: the second generation of the Osmonds, a new group known as Three of Hearts, and a tribute to Native Americans featuring the singer Johnny. It was quite a show.
A typical morning at the Jamboree began with a hearty breakfast, a quick but thorough cleanup, and a trip to the bank to grab some cash for the day. There was so much more to do. Scouts checked out the DNR displays, visited with a gentleman who makes neckerchief slides, and looked through the Merit Badge Midway, which featured nearly 100 Merit Badge booths. By then it was time to cool off, so we went canoeing. Things could get a little silly around camp, sometimes even strange. It didn't matter if the sun was shining or the rain was falling. The Scouts always found something to do. Every new day brought a sense of new adventure. After breakfast, of course. And after a little laundry. Oh, and flag raising. Then the Scouts were off once again. The Veteran Rainforest was one of the most popular sites. How would you like to get close to a monster truck? Have you ever tried rappelling down a 40-foot wall? Many Scouts visited the range sports area. Shotguns, .22 rifles, and black powder rifles were available to test everyone's skill. The 3 archery ranges also saw a lot of action. Speaking of action, how about trying a BMX course? There was just too much to do. Oh, and don't forget the 5K run. You can rest after everyone closes down for the day. A Scout is reverent. Services were held for all the major religions. Even though it rained, thousands of Scouts and leaders attended. A shower of rain would not stop our duties to God. After lunch at a kiosk, or a lunch tent, it was time to check out the military displays. Dozens of air and land vehicles were on display. Is everyone happy? Our senior patrol leader seemed to be, as he began dancing one day in camp. That is until someone put a stop to his foolishness. Foolishness? Try playing baseball with a stake for a bat and a tinfoil ball. Meanwhile, there was plenty to do around the camp. Time to finish up those last-minute chores. It was time to get dressed in uniform and head to the arena for the final Jamboree camp-wide show. The show was the final time all 30,000 scouts and leaders would be together in one place. Due to a storm, the show was postponed for one day, but that did not dampen the spirit of the scouts who had not only enjoyed the show but performed most of the entertainment because the scheduled entertainment had to back out due to the postponement. During the show, a solemn moment featuring the Scout Law was presented. A flame signifying the spirit of scouting was passed through the crowd until 30,000 candles brightened the darkness. And then, as the music roared over the area, the fireworks began.
Troop 1417 was visited by two Sub-Camp 14 staff members on our last full day at the Jamboree. The Big Dragons Patrol had won first place in the Sub-Camp's patrol flag competition. Patrol Leader Brent was happy to award the special patches to all his patrol members. The 2000 Jamboree was coming to an end. It was time to dismantle the gateway. The panels were removed, the towers were taken apart. It seemed to take longer to tear it apart than it did to put it together. After the flags were retired for the last time, it was time to strike the camp. It was a little more quiet in camp as the flies and the tents came down. After all, this had been our home for the last week, but all great things must come to an end. The only things we left standing that evening were a portion of the dining flies, just in case it rained during the night. But you know something? The adventure was not quite finished.
The gear was stacked high the following morning as the buses arrived. The camp was bare. All that remained was the grass. After we patrolled the area one last time for trash. Then it was time to load the buses and leave Fort A.P. Hill. Our first stop on the way home was Virginia Beach. This was the first time many of the scouts had ever seen an ocean. Even though a few troop members decided to stay dry, most of the guys went swimming and needed to wash the salt water off their backs. A nearby Dairy Queen helped to keep everyone cool. The troops had a tour of the Norfolk Naval Base and ate supper in the base commissary. Our last tour stop for the day was the Fisherman's Wharf Marina. The scouts walked down the boardwalk, saw a fishing boat come in, and even saw a couple of pretty large fish. This one was almost longer than some of the scouts. That night we stayed at the National Guard Armory. It didn't take long for the cards to come out and the games to begin once we were settled in for the night. Of course, there had to be at least one game of Magic being played.
The next morning we arrived at Monticello, the home of Thomas Jefferson. The tour guide began by telling us a short history of Monticello before we went into the house. Once again, we could not take pictures inside the house, but we made up for it as we wandered around the grounds. Thomas Jefferson was a very good designer, from the house, to the stables, to the bakery, and the gardens. Everything had its proper place. A small graveyard on the grounds marks the final resting place of the president. As we left the East Coast, we took a moment to catch up on some sleep before our next stop, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The place was huge. We immediately took seats in the upper decks to watch the cars as they drove around the track, trying to meet qualifying times for the following day's race. In the center of the track was the museum, which included quite a few racing cars from different periods in racing history.
August 2nd was our last night together as a group. Several scouts signed each other's shirts just like students do in school yearbooks. In the morning we wore our Jamboree uniforms one last time and loaded up the buses. As we crossed the Minnesota border, we realized our 2-week trip was coming to an end. We arrived at the mix-stop in St. Cloud slightly ahead of schedule, but no one minded. Our senior patrol leader gave every troop member a hug as they departed the bus. It was time to unload the bus, sort the gear, and find our parents and family, but not necessarily in that order. The 2001 National Jamboree trip may have come to its end, but the memories and friendships live on.